Okay, so let's move on. But when students are reading extensively, it's absolutely crucial that they read at the right level. And the way to do that is they read something quickly and enjoyably with adequate comprehension so they don't need a dictionary. R-E-A-D. Yeah? Very important. If they're reading extensively, if their idea is to read to get speed, for enjoyment, to be able to practice the skill of reading, they have to read like this. If they're reading something too slowly, then it's not going to build up their knowledge. If they read enjoyably, they're going to enjoy it and read more. If it's not enjoyable, they're going to get bored, they're going to put it down. If they don't understand what they're reading, it's not helpful for their comprehension. And they don't need a dictionary, meaning not too many speed reading bumps, so they can build their reading speed, fluency. And they can forget actually that they're reading. They're just enjoying the story in a kind of flow. So those 4 conditions are really important. So if they need a dictionary, it's too hard, they'll stop, slow down. Their aim is fluency and speed, not to learn the new language when you're doing extensive reading. Intensive reading is learning new language. Fine, good, continue doing that. Extensive reading is practicing old stuff to get better at it. Yes? Typically students read at home. It doesn't take much class time for huge benefits. There's a lot of research that shows that students who do only the intensive test-type practice compared to the students who do extensive reading, the ones who do extensive reading outperform, do better on tests than those students who do test preparation. There's a lot of research on this now. For many people, that's kind of counterintuitive. It doesn't feel right. How does that work? If I study for a test, I'm going to get better on the test, right? No, not necessarily. Why? Because of the brick analogy. More and more pieces doesn't make a better language. What students need on a test is to be able to see the language as a whole, to comprehend the whole piece of the language, not the pieces of the language. Yes? If the test is about pieces of language, they'll probably do better on the test. But if the test is for comprehension, like say like a TOEIC test or a TOEFL test, they don't have grammar questions on there. They don't have vocabulary questions on there. Yes? Not in any meaningful sense. So students will do better on tests because they understand the whole of the language better than the pieces of the language. There's a lot of research on that. So we should add this reading to our program. We don't replace it. So how do they fit together? Well, I want to explain to you how these two fit together. If we start off here with like low-level comprehension, low reading speed, and low vocabulary, there are 3 critical numbers that you need to understand. The first is 90%. If you've got a text, it doesn't matter if it's a low-level text, a high-level text, doesn't matter. Okay? If you've got a text and you know only 90% of the words, or less, that means there are maybe 10% of the words you don't know. We call that reading pain. Yes? It's hard, poor comprehension, high effort, demotivating. But if we've got a text which is between 90 to 98% of the words you do know, 8%, 5% you don't know, we can call this an instructional level, intensive reading. This is good for study. You can study from this. Not too hard, there's so many words it demotivates you. But it's at the right kind of level where you understand enough, but there's a few words you don't know that will help you work forward. But it's going to be slow, and it's a form of study, not a form of practice. If students know something over 98%, that is 2% or 1% of the words they don't know, 1 or 2 words per page, then they can read extensively. Fast, fluent, adequate comprehension, and enjoyable. And this here is the sweet spot for extensive reading. This kind of range here. Relatively few words they don't know. Almost no words they don't know. They don't need the dictionary. They're able to read quickly, fluently, and so on. Build up their knowledge. And learn how the language fits together. Build up a sense of how the language fits together. So if they already know 100% of the words, then we could say it's speed reading practice time. They can actually practice their speed, build my speed, 80 words a minute to 90 words a minute to 120 words a minute. Okay? So there's 4 levels of reading here. And as I say, it doesn't matter if this is a low-level book or a high-level book, it's the same basic idea. Yes? If it's too difficult, it's going to be demotivating. And all the way up, you need to find that sweet spot they can read it. Now, how do we know what their reading level is? You have to ask them. You can't decide. You can't say, this is good for you, because you don't know what's inside his head. You don't know how he feels about whether something is readable or not readable. Yes? So that's how they fit together. So, if they're reading at the right level, they read faster, they read more, they understand better, they enjoy reading, therefore they read faster. That's the cycle of learning that we want to have happen as much as we possibly can. So in the fluting reading class, reading pain does not equal reading gain. Okay? Choose reading with soul. What you need to do is choose reading materials where they can read quickly. There's a wide variety of books out there. There's a wide variety of difficulty levels, because everybody's at a different difficulty level. You can have 2 sisters, twin sisters, both 14 years old, look at the same book, and one student's going to say, this is too difficult for me, and the other one would say, I want to give it a try. They've had exactly the same class, exactly the same teacher, 2 different attitudes to the same text. Yes? So don't assume that all your 13-year-old students are exactly the same in level. No, they're not. They're not the same in attitude either. Most of their time should be spent reading as much as they possibly can. In reading class, let them read. Give them the reading for outside. Not translating or answering questions, doing reports and so on. The reading should be pleasurable as much as possible. And should be motivating and inspiring. So reading here is more than just language practice. So this analogy here of reading is reading pain is not true. Okay? Please make sure of that. So a summary of extensive reading. Massive language practice at the student's level of understanding. Excellent chances for the development of fluent eye movements because they're reading quickly. They can move their eye quickly because they're reading quickly. Excellent chance to learn the patterns in the language because the student is reading a lot. They're able to make these connections between the bricks. They know the difference between blonde hair and yellow car. And you say, well, why don't we say blonde car? Don't know. Why do we say blonde hair? Don't know. But it feels right. Yeah, beautiful woman feels right. Beautiful man? Oh, that doesn't feel right. Handsome woman? And this sense of language is something they pick up. You can't teach it. There's no book, no dictionary will tell you that we say beautiful woman, we don't say handsome woman. The only way that they know this sense of what feels right, this sense of collocation, sense of colligation, comes from exposure. Why do you know? Well, I just do. Right? And that sense of knowledge is something they have to pick up. We cannot teach it. They have to learn it. So there's a high probability the student's going to be interested in what they read and become a more confident reader. Okay? Here we go. So this is an example of some of the reading material that Compass has. Young Learner Reader Classics. I'm just going to go through this quickly. I'm sure there are other sessions for you to come and have a look at these things. So Young Learner Classics, 60 classics, very, very good material. This is an example of some material which is great for kids. This is a typical reading text here. You see it's longer, no dictionaries, no glossary, no comprehension questions there, just read. I think you say, dokso, yes, just read. Yeah? And for Compass Classic readers, it's extensive reading practice, and it builds up this fundamental reading fluency, and so on. And they're all part of this Reading Ocean series. Here are some more information about Compass Classic readers. They've got graded stories, appropriate vocabulary, motivating stories, short playlets, glossaries, and audio as well. And this is an example of some of the stories from the classics. And this is how they all fit together. You can find this all information in the Compass brochures. And please take a look. And Reading Oceans, this is the new series which I'll be talking about in this room in 2 hours' time. It's a new online series. 600 grade readers, please come and have a look. There's a lot of good stuff there. And this is the sort of what it looks like, and I'll leave it there. If you want the slides from this PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to write my web page here for you. You can download this PowerPoint from my website. Feel free. I uploaded it last night, and if you want it, please take it, play with it, use it, abuse it, show it to friends, do what you want with it. I don't care. But try and spread the word as much as you can about the importance here of extensive reading and about why it's important that students continue to learn new stuff through their typical course books, but they also deepen that knowledge through lots and lots and lots of practice. Remember, they need lots of exposure because of the way that the language works. You need to, as your level goes up, you need to read more and more and more. So typically, students would need to read about 1 book a week at the very lowest level. But when you get to the elementary, intermediate level, it needs to be 2 books a week. Why? Because most of the language they already know. There's a lot of language that they don't know. Yes? And it takes longer to meet words they don't know. When you get to the advanced level, it takes even longer to find something you don't know. Therefore, the amount of reading has to increase. It goes like this. Right? Which is why it's easy to get a good level of English and very hard to get a high level of English. Okay? So please make sure that your students are both doing the intensive course book material, but also bring in the extensive reading material. If you don't have time so much in your classes, you could maybe ask them to do an online reading series, something like this, which will really help them. Thank you for your time.